Everybody starting real quick.
All right. Can you hear me? Am I in here yet?
Yeah, man. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Oh, dude, I'm doing great, bro. I'm doing so good. I like your mug. I got mine already. It's Santa's Helper.
Okay. Nice. Got my California mug from Starbucks. So.
Heck yeah, dude. Heck
I also
yeah.
have a special guest with me today.
Oh, there you go. Oh, what a
He's
cute
gonna be
dog.
hanging out in the background. So I just woke him up from his nap.
Awesome.
So.
Right on, man. Right on, dude. Well, how's everything going, brother?
It's going pretty well. Just ended my my work day today, so had a few demos of the product. Did a little bit of managing, and then met up with a friend of mine who is graduating from BYU Law for lunch today. So overall, had a great day, but I'm glad it's all over now.
Yeah, dude, I can only imagine. I feel the same way. Sales is one of those things. It's almost like you're never done with sales. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. There's always something more to do.
Yeah. And I was going to say, it's like, but you almost have to be like, it's hard for me. I don't know about you. And maybe we can get into that on the podcast, but like, sometimes it's hard for me to like turn it off. You know what I mean? Cause I'm like, I got to get this done.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially I'm sure you resonate like as like a high performer, you know, someone who likes to go above and beyond. And then, you know, with that mindset, you almost never rest. You absolutely have to set boundaries for yourself, right? Or else you never will.
Yeah.
So I resonate with that.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Well, cool, brother. So hey, real quick, we're rolling. It was so funny. I was like,
Awesome.
so because I schedule it on Facebook, and Facebook like shuts it down 10 minutes, like you have like a 10-minute window. And so I was like, oh, I'll just start so we don't time out, and then when he jumps on, we'll just roll, man. So
okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds good to me.
Cool. Hey, dude. So I got your thing, and I wanted to start the podcast kind of at the beginning, but you mentioned, you know, we were talking before this, and you had written it down that you started your entrepreneurial journey selling shoes to businessmen online. Tell me more about that, dude.
Yeah, so that's an interesting background, interesting story. So I grew up in North Carolina. I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, and my dad is a pharmaceutical rep for Eli Lilly, which is a big pharmaceutical company, and he's been doing that for about 30 years now. And my great grandfather invented the coal bit, so our family is very entrepreneurial. My dad started this online shoe business when I was 16 years old. So he became really good friends with a store owner, a used shoe store owner in North Carolina near our house. And this guy was retiring, and my dad asked the owner for his contact for who he gets all of his shoes from. And the contact was the CEO of Allen Edmonds. Have you heard of Allen Edmonds?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Who hasn't heard? They're great shoes.
Yeah. Oh, do you have a pair?
I don't have a pair, but I mean, I know that. I mean, I've been in like the like, you know, the formal shoe wear.
Right.
And I've seen, you know what I mean? I bought formal shoes, and Allen Edmonds are great. Don't they have off topic? Don't they have like a lifetime warranty or something?
Yeah, not really a lifetime warranty, but they do recrafting. Like they'll recraft the shoes.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you can essentially have your shoes like for the entire life and just get them recrafted every now and then.
That's pretty sweet. Okay, but keep going. You
so
the owner of Allen Edmonds
for the CEO of Allen Edmonds, and he called the CEO, asked him to ship the shoes to our house instead of the old contact's house, and the CEO said yes. So we started getting all of these shipments, and what they are store returns and factory seconds of Allen Edmonds. And so they started an online, my stepmom and my dad started an online shoe company called Steve's Name Brand Shoes on eBay. And they're still around. So if anybody, needs a pair of Allen Edmonds discounted price, Steve's name brand shoes is the name of his store. And so he was very kind of ahead of the times when it comes to like e-commerce and like eBay and things like that. And I also was always interested in, I had lawn mowing businesses growing up, car wash, dog sitting. I'm sure that you had something similar.
Yeah.
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 So I told my dad, I said, hey, I will buy all of the lower quality shoes off of you, because he only wanted the A or B quality shoes on his website. So essentially he sold me the C quality shoes and I sold them on my own website. It was just Baughan at the time. And so I would put a starting bid for the shoes. My dad would help me negotiate with the bankers out of New York, essentially, as who my clients were. So here I am, 16 years old, like behind a computer, bidding with a banker out of New York City, trying to get the most out of a pair of loafers or a pair of, Park Avenue. So yeah, that's kind of how it all got started.
Dude, that is sweet. I feel like every good entrepreneurial journey and like sales journey starts with one of those. Because when you said shoes, mine wasn't shoes, mine was ties. So I grew up in Iowa, and we lived right next to Nauvoo, Illinois. And so during the summertime, back then, Nauvoo still had a pageant, like for the LDS church, they had a Mormon pageant and like a Joseph Smith pageant. And people would come like from everywhere. I mean, Nauvoo was like a ghost town until the summertime when this pageant started. And if you're familiar with Nauvoo, like the temple is right here, but then it's on Mulholland Street, and they have a Zion's Mercantile right across the street. So it's like the temple, the bank, and then Zion's Mercantile. But when I grew up, there was nothing there. And so I would pitch a tent, and my mom got secondhand ties, like all store pulled ties, all the ties no one wanted. And I would line them up and I would sell them to people who wanted to go to church or like to the temple, but they didn't have a tie. And people thought that you needed a tie to go to the temple. And I just capitalized on it and sold a ton of ties. And so that was a lot of fun. It's a great little way though. Everybody's got that little gig,
Dude, you're a born hustler. I can tell, finding opportunity in the little things and doing it for good. Right. I mean, hey, ties are great. People wanted to wear them. So there you go.
Yeah. And we were selling it, and it was like, and people were like, and then what's cool is, I'm sitting out there like in a tent. And so people were pretty nice, that's the other kind of cool thing. That's when I learned though, that sales has karma, and you never pass up like a lemonade stand or a little kid selling something on the side of the road. You just, I believe in that. I might be crazy, but I believe in like, if you're a salesman and you pass up a lemonade stand, that's bad juju.
Totally. I mean, that goes into the law of abundance, right? Like giving and receiving, two sides of the same coin. Once you enter into that field of giving, you also enter into the field of receiving. So that's amazing. You understood that at a young age.
Yeah. So, but it was a lot of fun, and I'm sure like shoes, it's always good. Like and now they have back when you and I were doing it, I at least I don't remember it. Like I didn't grow up in a town that had like a Ross or like Nordstrom's Rack, but now there's companies, that's all they do is sell store pulls and secondhand. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So it's TJ Maxx, stuff like that. So that's gnarly, bro. But tell us more about like you and your story. Like, what do you have going on right now? I know you're in sales. I know you're in the mindfulness and meditation, and you specifically help people, become present in these things. So tell us like what you got going on.
Absolutely. I'll just go ahead and continue the story, going from high school and how I made it here today. So I was a big football player and lacrosse player in high school. And my dad went to BYU, Brigham Young University, and he really wanted me to go to that school. In fact, when I was a kid, he always said, you can go anywhere you want, but I'll help pay for you to go to BYU. And so now looking back, it was a business decision, right? I did get recruited to play lacrosse at BYU. And so that really helped. And it was a dream of mine to play college sports. And so when the lacrosse coach reached out, asked me to come to a tryout, I was floored and just really grateful to be given the opportunity. And during that tryout, I had to go against some of the starters, and it was like started at like 5 a.m. I had to drive up from West Jordan, so it was about an hour drive. So I got up super early, was really tired when I got there, but I had this weird surge of just crazy energy whenever I put my pads on, and I knew that I had to go against these starters. It was like something deep in my soul that was like, this is your chance. You know, like this is make or break for you, Zach. And so I'm a face-off specialist in the lacrosse. So I basically had to do face-offs, which is where they put the ball in the middle of the field and you have to fight to get possession of the ball. And you have to have a high percentage win rate. And I ended up beating all of the starters. I just got off my mission from Paris, France. So I was not in good shape. But I had more drive. I wanted it more than all the other players. And so I ended up making the team. I got into BYU. And while I was serving a mission in Paris, France, I started to come up against some anxiety. And I had heard about meditation. And so I was a leader in France, and I was traveling a lot, going on trains, and I had time on my hands just to kind of look out the window and just kind of reflect. And that's when I really started practicing, mindfulness and meditation. I would just look at one object out the window, like a tree or a car. And the speed of the trains in Europe are such that it's very relaxing to me. It's just to be able to look out the window, look at one object and follow it. It's very meditative. So I started doing it just kind of naturally. When I came home from my mission and went to BYU, was playing on the team, I felt even more like anxiety because I was a student athlete. I wanted to get good grades. I got an internship at American Express and then Franklin Covey. So I was doing like 3 or 4 things at a time. I was an RA for Heritage Halls as well. So I was doing a lot, man.
Yeah.
We ran into Tim Ferriss. And are you kind of familiar with Tim Ferriss's podcast and his stuff?
Yeah, I love Tim Ferriss.
Yeah. So I read his book, Tools of Titans. And in that book, one of the main connections of all of the highly successful and happy people is that they had a mindfulness practice of some sort. And you know how Tim Ferriss is. He likes to really like siphon it down to like what are the essentials to get the most bang for your buck, the best ROI. And for him, it was sitting 21 minutes a day consistently. And so in end of 2013, I started practicing meditation. I call it sitting for 21 minutes a day. And where I was just following my breath, I was just being aware of the thoughts that were coming in, the feelings that I had. I didn't push them away. So it was really a breath awareness, MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, John Kabat-Zinn type of style of meditation. I did that for 4 years. Did that for 4 years until about 2017, when I was about to graduate from BYU. I decided to do a backpacking trip to Europe. And then I had an unfortunate event that happened in my career right when I graduated from BYU that led me to do my first meditation retreat. And that retreat was held by the Two Arrows Zen Center here in Salt Lake City, Utah, with Michael Zimmerman, who was a Utah Supreme Court justice for a long time. So that's kind of what led me to, the meditation mindfulness part.
Yeah, that's sweet, man. You know what? The first time I was really blown away by like what meditation could do for you, and when I really wanted to try it. Are you familiar? Because it's a beautiful story, and when you're talking about trains, and you're talking about like finding ways to reduce stress, like meditation is the best way to do it, I think, or at least at least you shouldn't take it off the menu. I'll just say that because I understand like some people need medication and I'm not against that, but I do think that you should keep it on the menu. And when I found out about meditation, and I really started taking it seriously. Are you familiar with Mike Posner? He's a rapper.
Yes,
Singer, pop. Yeah. Pop singer. He did like the he had a bunch of good songs, but he kind of not turned into, but he kind of started coming into the meditation space, and he was on I think he was on Impact Theory with Tom Bilyeu, and he told a story about when he goes on this like silent retreat where like you can't talk for 7 days or something. and you're just alone by yourself and in this cabin or whatever. He said he did it in Colorado. But anyway, the coolest part of the story was he got there the first day, and this is the part that hit me. And he was like, I was quiet. I was alone. And he goes, and as I was being quiet, my mind started making up things for me to do. And then he goes, how many of our goals and things do we come up with simply because like we can't just be in a room alone? And that goes on with another quote that like all of man's problems stem from them not being able to sit in a room quietly by themselves. And I was like, holy crap, man. For me, that was like it. I was like, that is so, I was like, I do so many things because I just can't be still. And it changed my whole life. And I heard that, funny enough, probably around the same time, 2016, 2017, although I was still in college. I was still in college. You know, I was actually just starting, but it was cool. It was really fun.
Do you know what type of retreat that you said it was a silent 7-day?
Yeah, I don't know where he went. I don't know what he was doing, or I mean, he said it, I'm sure, but I don't remember off the top of my head. So, but it was cool. Like that's part of it, right? I mean, at the beginning of your meditation journey, how did you overcome that? You know, maybe it wasn't a hurdle for you, but if it was, tell us how you overcame it. And if it wasn't, tell us how, you know, you kind of get over that. But that thing, you can't sit still. Your mind starts racing.
Totally. Yeah. Oh, Michael Zimmerman, the guy I was referring to, he actually calls it, you know, the monkey mind, right? You sit down and the monkey mind, the thinking mind is always trying to find something else to do, always trying to improve your situation, always trying to desire for something next. So I personally believe that we have a few different aspects of our mind, a few different parts of our mind that all need a certain amount of attention. And so to bring it back to my story, when I first started, I told you that I was witnessing a lot of stress in my body. And that led me to, it's funny because that stress led me to sit still. And when I sat still, the stress was still there, but it was almost like it was more acute than it was before. So it was louder when I sat down, but yet the more I felt it and the more I kind of like allowed it to be there, I took on a different identity. I took on a part of Zach that could actually hold a lot of stress. So it was almost like there were two parts of me. And I want to come back to this aspect because I think one of my heroes, Eckhart Tolle, talks about this, but it was almost like there were two parts of me. The Zach that was feeling stressed and there seemed to be something causing the stress. And then the Zach that could kind of take a back step and look at it all and kind of hold space for it all. And in that holding space for the stress, I felt it strongly, even stronger than I did when I wasn't sitting. But it was almost like I was kind of letting the air out of a balloon, just very slowly letting that air out as I was feeling the strength of the stress and feeling it in my body and in my mind. The longer I would sit, I realized that to the end of my 21 minutes that I was like, it's okay. Like, it's going to be okay. Like, yeah, maybe I still have some of that stress with me, but it's going to be okay. So there was a certain okayness that developed through practicing meditation and mindfulness to where I am today. I don't feel stressed that often, hardly ever. Like kind of the states that I'm in today are more like joy, peace, bliss, fulfillment, happiness. And there are moments that I feel it, but it's kind of like very sporadic and I'm able to look at it and feel it. And then it just kind of goes away and I go back into a different field of awareness. But definitely at the beginning, man, I think that's what drives a lot of people to practice, whether it's walking. It doesn't have to be seated silent meditation. We don't have to get dogmatic about that. It can be whatever your form of like mindfulness is, or of being the witnesser, as I like to say. Like when you're in those modes of being the witnesser, you're able to witness the stress and be okay with it.
Yeah, I think I like that you brought up like that there's different forms of meditation. I do sitting meditation every once in a while, but I also have like mad ADHD. So I combat that with, journaling.
Oh
So I
yeah.
do a lot of like writing as well. So one of the ways that I overcame that was yeah, dude. And it really helps. Like for me, I keep the same I keep all the same note cards. They're little note
Oh
cards.
nice.
And
Okay.
yeah, and so they're kind of all over the place because I get really like picky about books that I write them, but note cards I'll just scribble on and I keep them. But for me, I get to like go through every day, and I get to just see. And what I call it is like my brain dump. I get really stressed, and I'm like, all right, what's stressing me out? It feels like there's a million things in my head, but I write them down, and there's like two or three, and then the next question is, can you control it? And 99% of the time, the answer is no. And then that brings me a lot of like, you know what I mean? Then I can be like, okay, I just need to let this go. It's going to play out. It's not going to kill me. You knock on wood, right? but it's probably not going to kill me, and we'll
Yeah.
move on from it. You know what I mean? And
Totally.
so walking, riding the train. I grew up.
Yeah.
I grew up in the Midwest. We rode trains all the time, like
Really?
the Amtrak. Like that's how we got
Okay.
some places. We'd go across. Like
Yeah.
I've taken the Amtrak to like Oregon and Iowa, and then Illinois and all around.
Wow. I didn't know it was that
They're
expensive out there. The
yeah.
Amtrak.
Well, it's almost so. My mom taught me that if you don't have time and you have money, fly. If you have time and you don't have a lot of money, or if you just want to take the time, then take a train. Like Amtrak is more accessible than planes for the most part. And in
Right.
the Midwest, there's not a lot of airports there. Like if
Okay.
you want to get like Kansas, parts of Iowa, but
Yeah.
a train will come right into random cities. Like there'll be a
Wow.
train there. If there's not an
Wow.
airport, there's a train station. So it's great.
Kind of cool. Yeah,
It
that's kind
is
of cool.
cool.
Hmm.
You know what? You know what everybody should do once in their life? Okay, I'm going to go off topic now that we're talking about
Totally.
trains. Everybody should take the Amtrak from Oregon, like the top of Washington, Oregon, all the way down and see the West Coast on a train. It's beautiful.
That would be amazing.
It's unreal. But that's where I heard about Burning Man for the first time. Heard about
In
Burning Man
Oregon?
on a no, on an Amtrak train.
Oh, you said that
They
to someone, they told you about it?
they were all going to, like, everybody in the observation car was going to Burning Man.
No.
Yeah. I was like
Did they all
16
have
or
their cowboy
17.
hats on?
Dude, they had everything on, and some people had everything off, and
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Jewels
they
and
were
crystals, the whole 9 yards.
they're
Yeah.
telling me about everything. And I'm 16. I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about,
Have you
man.
gone? Have you done
What?
it?
I've
Have you
never
done
done
it?
no, I've
Okay,
never done
okay.
Burning
Yeah,
Man.
me neither. So,
But I've had a lot of really close friends do it. Apparently,
yeah.
one of the things that my friend told me was like there's no money in Burning Man. They trade like resources.
Oh yeah, they do the barter system. Yeah.
Yeah. So they trade like water and food and other things like that.
Well, that's,
I thought that was cool.
they say that's what we did when we were hunter gatherers. So I think they're just trying to go back to that.
Yeah. That's fun. Right
Yeah.
on. Yeah. Okay. Let me bring it back. One
Cool.
of the things that you talk about in when you talk about meditation and that you brought up was finding purpose, right? And to tie into that, to give that question a little more context, you also talk about when you were mentioning handling the stress, you mentioned the word peace, and that's kind of what I like to talk to people about, is like, you don't have to be happy all the time, but you can have peace. Like I can have peace during hard times, right? Even though I might not be happy about what's going on. How do you help people discover their purpose? That's like a big question, but what do you think? What do you think it boils down to?
I love that. There's a few questions in there, so I'll answer that one first. How do I help people find their purpose? It's such a popular topic today. Like if you go on YouTube, there are so many videos, and if you posted this video and said how to find your purpose, like you'd get a shit ton of views, just because you're using that language. And I just want to preface it with, there's so much information out there on like how to find your life's purpose. And I think that we can all get lost in finding our life's purpose. And so I do want to talk about that. For me specifically, I was I was always trying to find that. I think 3 or 4 years ago, naturally graduating from college, like, what am I going to do next equals what am I going to do for the rest of my life, right? I mean, that's kind of what the idea they plant in your mind in college. It's like, you have to get the best job, blah, blah, blah. For me, finding my purpose and helping other people find their purpose, it has a lot to do with identity.
Mm-hmm.
So I am a certified integral facilitator, which means that I do facilitation based on Ken Wilber's integral theory. So just a very brief explanation of Ken Wilber's integral theory, which has to do with human development. So his model of human development is that there are a few different levels of identification. Egocentric is identification with ourself. Ethnocentric is identification with a community, whether that's a state you live in or a neighborhood you live in or a race or a gender, whatever group of people that you identify with, that's ethnocentrism. So that's the second mode of development. The third is world-centric. So identifying with the world that you live in. So in this instance would be maybe Earth or whatever world you live in. The fourth level of development is a cosmic-centered identity. So there is a guy I follow on YouTube. His name is Sadhguru. And he talks about how in India.
I got his book.
You have his book. Which one?
I got, hold on, let me see. Sadhguru Karma.
Karma. Yeah, that's the one he just came out with. Yeah, we were just talking about karma too earlier.
Yeah.
But he talks about this cosmic centered identity, which when he was a kid in India, growing up in elementary school, you know how, growing up, we would do the Pledge of Allegiance, to the flag, America. They would do a cosmic centered pledge. Like, I am a member of the cosmos. Like, I'm a part of this big, wide cosmos, and the earth is just a part of that. And when inside of that earth is our ethnocentric, our family, our friends, so even smaller circle. And then even smaller than that is our ego-centered self, is the self. And so I think, so bringing it back to this purpose question, like with that sort of understanding of like how big the world is and how big, not just Earth, but like the cosmos, everything, how big it is and how small we are in relation to that. Teeny, 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 tiny, right? And so starting with a cosmic identity, so really embodying that identity and including everything around you in that identity, that is the best place for someone to find their purpose. From that identity, they ask, how can I be of service to this world? How can I be of service to my family, my friends, my group of people around me? And how can I be of service to myself? So finding your purpose, I think, first requires a cosmic identity, which takes time, evolution, all sorts of different, techniques. I call it by grace. It kind of just happens to you as well. Like it just you just start to think a little bit bigger than just yourself, essentially. So starting with that identity is a great place for people to find their purpose in life.
That's pretty sweet. So you mentioned getting lost in finding their purpose.
And when I say that, I think why I say that is because a lot of the times when they ask the question, what's my purpose in life? They're coming from the egocentric self. So they're just like, hey, how can I like make the most money? How can I make the biggest impact? How can I become bigger, essentially? And that's where I think people get lost, is because the answer to that question is, it can vary. It can be like, all right, work for this company and work as hard as you can to create your own company, then sell it for millions of dollars, become a billionaire like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. Like that is like the path. Egocentrism is like automatically goes to like that. Instead of thinking, how can I be of service in the world because I have a much bigger identity than just myself? So I think that we often get lost in that question when we think that we know everything and when we think that we're super important. The grand scheme of life, like we're not that important. At the same time, we're extremely important for the evolution of consciousness, I like to say. So we are very important, but from a cosmic centered purpose, like we are such a small speck in the universe that can just go away in the blink of an eye.
Yeah. How do you, because now I agree with you. Like one of the schools of philosophy that I really gravitate towards is Stoicism, and they kind of have similar, right? We all kind of have similar. Most schools of philosophy have this kind of idea that you're a speck, you're in the, we could die at any minute. How do you, taking what you just said, how do you combat like the nihilism that might come with that? Like,
I love that. I
throw
love
it all
that.
away. Why does it matter? Right.
Yeah, you're a very good interviewer, because that's a great segue to the next question, because it can often go there.
Mm-hmm.
So nihilism, but I think if I can just say this, Dalton, I think that nihilism and over optimism are part of the same identity.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that you're just staying in the ego-centered self. Like, I'm either all important or I'm a pile of shit, right? And it's like, hold on, you can be both, and in fact, you are both.
Yeah.
But I think it's being humble and realizing that you're a part of something so much bigger, and how wonderful that is. Like, how wonderful that I don't have to have the answer to everything, and I can continue breathing in oxygen. Sorry, let me decline.
You're good, man.
I can keep breathing in oxygen, and I can live, and I don't need to do anything for that. And everything in this earth, like, it can feed me, and it can bless my life. So it's like, I don't know. I think it's really easy to get locked in the ego-centered self, but feeling that bigger identity, you start to realize that this world is here to support your life. Everything in the world is here to support your life. And feeling that energy and kind of meditating on that identity, I think will really help people that are stuck in nihilism and, mental health, depression, that type of thing. Realize you're part of something much bigger, like relax a little bit. We're all going to die, and that's completely okay. Sadhguru also says that death is one of the biggest parts of compassion in this life. Like, think about before you go to bed, how tired you are. And like, what if you could never go to sleep? What if you could never fall asleep and you had to stay awake your whole life? Like, that would be hell. And death is just a small, it's like sleeping on a much larger scale. So
yeah. I think I think definitely that's it, because how I view that is, well, I heard an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson, who was on, I think, with the late Larry King. You know what I'm talking about? You know the interview?
I haven't seen that podcast, but I know.
But you've seen the clip. I haven't listened to all podcasts either. I wasn't a huge Larry King fan, but this one came across my feed. Not that Larry King wasn't awesome. It just wasn't my cup of tea. But Neil deGrasse Tyson talks about how, like, living forever, like the fact that he's going to die gives him like the purpose to like do something, and not waste time and fix relationships and start projects and create something. And I think that that's why it's great, and then at the same time, it's like one of the Stoic, I don't have the coins right here, but I carry around like Memento Mori, and that question kind of looms in my head of like, you could leave life at any moment, let that dictate what you do, say, and think. Marcus Aurelius said that, and that's it for me. Like, you want to, if this was the last podcast I did, how do I want to go out? And I certainly, and then for me, the question is, I don't want to be a dick. I want people to, what I mean? I want people to know that at least I tried to tell the truth as much as I can. In fact, Urban Meyer, just another quick story before we move on to the next one. Sure. Urban Meyer, great football coach. He was leaving Ohio State University under some questionable circumstances. And a reporter asked him, like, what do you want your legacy to be at Ohio State? And Urban Meyer, I don't know what happened. I never researched the case. I don't know how it ended. All I know is, like, this particular moment in time, I heard him say this, and I was like, that's very true. They were like, how do you want your legacy to be remembered at Ohio State? And he's like, I just want people to remember that I told the truth and that I did my best. And you know what I mean? And he said those two things, and I was like, holy crap. Yeah. That's kind of, that's like life. You know what I'm saying?
Very straightforward, very simple. Don't get complicated with it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to know that because all you have is like kind of like your integrity and things like that.
Absolutely.
So now when you're going through these different, this integral theory that Ken Wilber, you're talking about with Ken Wilber, is it kind of like a growth? Is it linear? Do you start somewhere and you go up, or how does that work?
I wouldn't say it's linear. Like I mentioned
Okay.
at the beginning of the call, I personally believe, and through my personal experience, I have different parts. There are different parts of myself that I embody at different times.
Yeah.
Sometimes I embody the egocentric self. If I really need to get something done, and I'm the one who needs to do it at a certain given time for the greater good, right? Other times I take on a world-centric perspective where I'm like, all right, how is this action affecting the world? Like for instance, last year 2 years ago, I got an electric car, and it's just such a small thing, right? But that was one little thing where I'm like, okay, I can make a difference here, so let me make that difference, right? And so, however, the cosmic centered identity, I think that's an embodiment that I think, if I'm understanding it correctly, is associated with higher levels of consciousness. And you hear a lot of people say they had an awakening, or they had, an experience of complete bliss and ecstasy and happiness and fulfillment. I personally think that in those moments, you're starting to tap into universal abundance, or God, or whatever you call it, the spirit.
Yeah.
And that's when you start to get a higher level identity of that cosmic centered self. So I think you can tell through people's language and what they're embodying and how they're thinking, what level of development they're embodying in that moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so that makes sense. So you kind of like, what is it? Who was it? Carl Jung. He kind of talked about, there's like sub personalities or whatever, right? And kind of like
Sure. Yeah.
you kind of have this idea. Obviously a little bit different, but that's how I'm making it click in my head. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah.
you know what I mean?
With those
Go ahead.
sub personalities, you embody a different level of development. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and that's kind of you're more advanced in one area, and we're always working to get better in things, so that makes a lot of sense when you talk about that. So now, one of the things that you wanted to talk about and that I love talking about are two things: books and people that inspire us. So I'll flip them and start with people who inspired you. Who do you find inspiration through?
Yeah, man, this is such a great question. So when I was 18 years old, I actually went to BYU, Idaho, before I went on an LDS
Oh, right
mission to
on.
France. And I had a professor, his name was David A. Christensen, and he taught a class called Personal Achievement.
Okay.
This class had the most impact of me than any other class I've ever taken in my life. He had us do a creed document where we wrote down our belief systems, we wrote down our goals for life, we wrote down the social mirror, what other people thought of us, what we thought of ourselves. And so that class, and David A. Christensen was really the first person who inspired me to kind of wake up in life and set goals for myself. And I accomplished a lot of the goals that I wrote down when I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
However, I would say the number one person that has made an impact on my life, especially through my spiritual development, is Eckhart Tolle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Eckhart Tolle is the author of The Power of Now and A New Earth. And I remember reading A New Earth and just devouring it, reading it page after page, listening to him on YouTube, listening to his podcast, listening to his talks. And I could feel an internal expansion happening inside me every time I read the literature or listened to him. So listening to him actually facilitated me having an experience of a cosmic identity, or having kind of like an awakening type of experience momentarily, where I really felt extreme bliss, peace, happiness, joy in one moment. And my life has kind of flowered since then. So there are a lot of other people too that have inspired me: Deepak Chopra, Jensen Chero, Dr. Joe Dispenza, even Grant Cardone in my career. Like, a lot of people have inspired me. But if I can kind of pinpoint it to one person, it would be Eckhart. And I have a very special place in my heart for him. I'm going to hear him speak in January in LA, and just really excited to hear him in person. Yeah, but his message and his embodiment expanded me and has just led to the flowering of my life since then.
That's cool. I thought it was funny when you talked about, not funny, but interesting. Sorry. Because when you talk about writing the creed, you had to do a social mirror. Isn't that crazy? It feels like all the time we're thinking about what other people think about us. And then when it comes to write it, did you have a hard time? Like, what do other people think about you? I've done that before. And it's like, I don't know what other people think about me. Well, it's like, yeah, you do. You just don't want to tell me what you think they think about me.
Exactly. Well, actually, Dalton, it was an experience where I had to ask other people. Like I had to write a prompt to like my parents, to my close friends, to colleagues, people that were really close to me, and ask them basically like what they thought of me. There was a prompt, right? But it was pretty similar, like it was a pretty similar message that I guess I was sending out at the time. It was mainly positive, a few points of, feedback that were constructive, but it was an amazing experience because they were pretty like streamlined, like pretty similar. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah.
That is cool. That's a lot of fun. So then I guess with that, then you've kind of talked about, we have a lot of the same people. Greg Cardone is a salesman. He actually started in the automotive industry. You probably knew that though. He started selling cars and like finance, and that's where I started. So I heard about Greg Cardone in the car business like 6 or 7 years ago. Yeah. He was huge in the car. I mean, that's where he started. So then he goes, well, I want to teach other car salesmen how to sell cars and how to close deals at the dealership.
Yeah.
And then he goes, well, and I wanted to make some extra money. So I did finance. And then he had a whole finance course. I did that. And then he got into real estate and stuff like that. But yeah, Deepak Chopra, I almost took his like meditation certification.
Oh, really?
Certification. Almost.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I want to do meditation. I don't really want to teach it. Again, nothing wrong with teaching it. It was just like, for me, I'm like, wasn't for me.
Totally. I get that.
You know what I mean? And it's so crazy. Like, I've never had disagreements on here on podcasts, but I have had them like outside when people are like listening. And it's like, well, why did you say that it wasn't for you? And I'm like, well, because like we're all different. You know what I mean? Like we can all do different things, and not be like you teach meditation. I think it's great. I wouldn't want to teach it.
Yeah,
I get why people do, and it's great, and we need them.
Well, listen, man. I mean, humans have been around for a long time. We have had experiences of shifting our identity, like, who knows how long meditation's been around. It just seems like something that's a more direct path, but it's definitely not something that everybody needs to do, or that, like, I don't like to make it dogmatic. Like I used to just sit in the sauna and just chill. And I had similar experiences just doing that, like sitting in the sauna with a lot of heat. My attention started to get more focused. I felt better. And it was like, pretty similar to like, seated meditation. So I'm totally in line with you there, man.
I do the ice baths, man.
Ooh.
I do like a 3 or 4 minute ice bath.
Yeah, man.
Have you ever done, they do it and I mean, they do it everywhere, but have you done like I think it's like 20 minutes in a sauna, and then you run out and you do like 3 or 4 minutes in an ice bath, and then you come back and jump into the sauna for 20 minutes?
Oh,
that's a trip. That's a trip. So, okay. So do you know who James Nestor is?
I do not.
Okay. So James Nestor wrote a book called Breathe. He wrote a book, I think it's called Deep, where he talks about world famous and like professional free divers. So free divers like hold their breath for a really long time, and they go underwater. They can hold their breath for like, I don't even know how long. I don't even want to guess, but it's a long time, like longer than we would think. And then he wrote a book, and I don't know if this is in the same order, but this is how I read them. I read breathe, I read deep, and then I read the it's called Get High Now.
Nice.
And it's without, like,
I
he
like
doesn't
that.
talk about, just with like breathe, because you can do like, what is it called, hyper, or so it's a
Like
type of breathing.
not hyperventilation, but like
No, it's like
somatic
hyper,
breath work.
yeah, it's
Um,
like hyperbolic, or I don't know, dude.
yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
I'm close enough.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm like, I need Ben here. He's my producer. He'd Google it for me if he left. But anyway, he writes this, and one of those is like this: breathing is a way to do it, and then in this sauna thing, the ice sauna, that's trippy. My brain went crazy. Get in the sauna, 20 minutes, hot as hell. Immediately, you walk out of the sauna, you go right to the ice bath.
Jeez.
4 or 5 minutes in the ice bath, you're like, this is crazy.
No
Then you
thanks.
get back out and you go back into the hot as hell sauna. My brain was doing flips, and I was closing my eye. You know what I'm saying? It was gnarly. So like Wim Hof stuff, like Wim Hof has that type of like really intense breathing through your nose. Your nostrils get like ice cold.
I did do a breathwork technique through Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I think he has like a similar breathwork technique that Wim Hof has. So this breathwork technique is basically, I think I kind of talked about it before, but like holding your lower three like abs and energy centers and breathing up to the top of your head and then releasing it after holding it for a few seconds. And I have definitely had some like out of body like experiences doing that meditation. It's been phenomenal. But never with, hot and cold mixed in there. I'm sure that would just enhance it even more.
Dude, yeah, it was so to get through, I mean, a big part of cold showers or like ice baths, I think cold showers are worse than ice baths. I'd rather take an ice bath, to be honest with you.
Really?
But yeah, so cold showers are fine. Like, they don't get as cold as an ice bath, but it's more mental, right? Like, because you grow up and you're like, showers are hot.
I see.
So you get, what I mean? You get the shower, and then it's not all at once either. Like, the water kind of runs off of you, and you get cold at different points. With an ice bath, you just slowly. What do they call it? I don't want to say it because I don't know if it's offensive, but so I'll just call it like a Dalton cold shower. Where you start it warm and then you get cold.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying?
That would be me.
So there's that. But yeah, I think but anyway, to get through this, they teach you like how to breathe through the cold, because that's the first thing that I mean, you've taken, have you done like an ice bath?
I have done not an ice bath, but a cold shower.
Okay. So, well, if you've done a cold shower, then the first thing that goes is like your breath.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you start you start hyperventilating, you can't breathe.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that's the same thing. So I do breathing techniques with my kids, because funny enough, it's like in life, that's the first thing that goes. Like, when your mood changes, like, for some reason, your breath changes. Like, you get really excited. I mean, it probably doesn't change dramatically, like not enough for us to notice. But like sometimes when it does is like when we get scared, our breath changes like dramatically. When we get angry, it changes dramatically. And so I do that with my kids. Like, the first thing that changes is their breath. And so like we do breath work to like come back down,
That's amazing, man. That's great. You're teaching them at a young age.
Well, it's better than, I'm Polynesian, and I know my story's not different. But, we didn't have there was no progressive parenting.
That's right. I'm very familiar with that. Yeah. I grew up in the South, and it's similar in the South.
Yeah, so. I'm sure it is. Yeah. And that's funny. Yeah, it's true, dude. Nobody had it. It doesn't matter really what you were. If you grew up in that age, like there were no like ADHD didn't really exist.
No.
It was like
it's like you were just being bad, essentially. Like,
yeah, exactly. It's not like
you're a bad person.
Right, exactly, dude. Exactly. So, well, cool, man. Thank you so much for joining me and giving us all your knowledge, brother. I really appreciate it. So, where can people follow you? Where can people get a hold of you? get involved, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a website, zachbaughan.com. I do mindfulness coaching and facilitating, mainly for people who are trying to find their purpose in life, but also those that feel like they have a lot of stress, anxiety, depression, and they have tried a few different things for that and nothing has worked, and they want to try meditation and mindfulness. So really for especially those that maybe have a full-time job and they want to either get better at it or they want to transition to something else, just anyone that's looking to become more mindful and less stress in their life. So zachbaughan.com is a great place to go. You can sign up for, I've got, a newsletter that I send out each week. I'm also pretty active on Facebook these days. I do write some poetry now, just based on some of the things that I think about when I'm practicing meditation. So my Facebook page, just search Zach Baughan. LinkedIn, I'm pretty active as well on there with posting and things like that. So
I think
social media. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think that's how we met. I think shout out, who was it? Dave Lowell connected us.
Yeah, Dave connected us. Big fan of Dave
Shout
too.
out to Dave.
So,
yeah, Dave
right.
Dave and I had a very similar conversation. But it's always great, like when you get on a podcast and people will ask me to be on the podcast, and that's fine. But the best conversations I have are the ones where we like organically meet and we introduce, and then it's like, man, this is sick.
Right.
So
that's
cool,
exactly
brother.
Right.
Cool,
All right,
brother.
man.
Well, hey, thank you so much. Absolutely.
All right.